Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Teacher Training course. We're very thankful to have everybody here this evening, whether you're here live or out there on the internet, whatever the case might be. Uh, just to mention, if you'd like, we are in the acceptance book tonight. If we could see it on the overhead right there, you can see it. And if you don't have the book, you can go on the web page, official Peaceful Solution Facebook page, and on the upper right hand side there is a menu where you can actually download the books. So, with that said, we're in the acceptance unit, and we are still in chapter 5. And we'll be on page 99, right there on the overhead, page 99, test, prove, and stand firm. Just a little quick review. We're going to be reviewing the whole chapter shortly when we get to what I have learned at the back of the chapter, but just a little quick review of what the last couple teachers have spoken about. If you turn back to, page 95, friends, conformity, and purpose. And it starts out, once you've identified your purpose in life, don't stop there. And that's an important thing, identifying that purpose in life. I think most people wonder, why are we here? Why are we here? The age-old question, why are we here? What is my purpose in life? So you must also be focused on achieving your purpose in life once you've identified it. This means being careful of how you spend your time alone or with friends, as well as being aware of what you conform to. And this is about conformity. There's positive and there's negative conformity. And we want to always go with the positive, not the negative. It takes a little bit of work, and hopefully everyone who's been practicing the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program is at a point in their lives where they can recognize the positive influences and the negative influences, and therefore look at what they're conforming to. If you turn to page 96, one of the things that you'll notice at the top of the page about the second or third sentence there, it says negative conformity can derail you from your purpose. Negative conformity can derail you from your purpose. Now, this is one of the things that we as teachers, we want to be able to share this information with our students. We want to impart to them, if you will, all the information that we have, the knowledge that we have as teachers. Of course, we can't just, cut their head open and pour it in. If we could, that would be the easy way. We have a lot of experiences in our lives that we're able to share with our students as they're growing up, whether they be, children, teenagers, adults. And some of the experiences we have are negative, and we can use those to some degree to describe what we shouldn't do. But we've got a lot of positive experience also in our lives to share. Now, down at the bottom, there are many types of activities that can be done with friends as a means of conforming and fitting in. That are negative and have the potential to influence you to make poor choices. Keep in mind that every choice you make, including how you spend your time and what you conform to, can affect your ability to develop a positive character. And that's what we need to remember. We've got to guard that positive character that we're working so hard to form. If you do not carefully consider what you're conforming to and how you spend your free time, alone or with friends, you could jeopardize your ability to achieve your purpose by making choices that are irresponsible, selfish, and disrespectful. Negative conformity can waste your time and your future. It's important to remember that. And on the next page, page 97, Catan last class went over identifying conformity. Of course, it's an activity, and it talks about categorizing the list below into the appropriate columns. And one of the things we need to remember as teachers is that when we have the activities, you don't just start a class with an activity. You've got to lead into it. And whether the activity, as Catan mentioned, be done at the beginning of the chapter or at the end, at some point in time, and depending upon how much time you have in the class, some of these activities are done at home and some are done in the classroom with all the students, with the teacher present. But today we're going to go ahead and turn to page 99, and we're going to start there with test, prove, and stand firm. Now this is an interesting chapter. With all the things that are taking place in our lives, anybody who's, let me just say that there's been a lot of sickness and everything out there, to the point to where people are scared. They're demanding, vaccines and mask wearing and so forth. Well, one of the things we want to do is determine what of those things are, acceptable and what of those things work. Now, one of the things that I particularly practice is I like to wear my mask, whether I'm out in public or in close proximity around other people. And whether it does anything to protect me or not, I know that it does protect the other person. It's hard to actually speak without a little bit of a, fog coming out of your mouth every now and then. There's a little bit of I'm sure everyone has seen when they've been talking in an excited tone that there might have even been a little bit of spittle or something come out. It's not great to talk about, but these are facts of life, and these things do occur. So to protect others, easy to put on, we have masks, easy to do. And I know a lot of other people that come to Peaceful Solution classes and all, and we all like to wear our masks to help protect each other. And I highly recommend that to anybody out there. But it's a choice. So test, prove, and stand firm. Now, when it comes to your friends and achieving your purpose, keep in mind that friends can either support your positive choices or discourage you by thoughtless negative comments from going after, discourage you from going after what you want. Now, remembering that, actually I was going to mention this a little bit later on this page, but as a teacher, we would like to be able to teach all of our students to be compassionate, empathetic, respectful, and caring in all ways, so that there's not these negative comments and so forth, coming out of someone's mouth. Now, it's so easy to do. Unless a person is trained very heavily in the Peaceful Solution, it's very easy for your emotions to take over and some type of negative comment come out of your mouth. Some type of discouraging statement come out of your mouth. I know when people set forth their goals to achieve something that might sound a little bit tough to some of us, it's easy to say something discouraging to the person and say, well, you can't do that. Or, well, no one's ever done that before. Things like this, that's discouraging. Now, if you see that the person is talking about doing something that could harm them or others or property or the environment, if you see that taking place, you could say something, but don't discourage a person's dreams, otherwise. Think about what you're talking about. Be a great active listener, an active communicator, These are some of the things we're learning in the Peaceful Solution. And as a teacher, we want to make sure that we're not making negative comments and discouraging our students from going forth. I'll tell you, I wouldn't ever want to discourage a child or a teenager, or really even another adult, but it's so much more important in children. Don't knock them down. Don't discourage them, Encourage them and help them achieve their goals and what they would like to achieve, as long as it's something that's not going to hurt themselves or others and is acceptable in the community. Now, as we've learned in the previous chapter, we tend to seek the approval of others, especially our friends. Now, in previous chapters, we've talked about how we choose friends and what a real friend is, We want to be careful on who we call a friend. We desire to know that those we care about approve of the decisions that we make. Of course we do. For example, have you ever worn an outfit and although you can see yourself in the mirror and you might be satisfied with your own appearance, you ask your friend's appearance about how you look? Well, are you really looking for someone to say, well, that looks really stupid there, you know? No, you're probably looking for that approval, you know, looking for them to build your confidence rather than tear it down. As long as they're wearing something acceptable. Now, without confidence in your appearance, a negative comment from a friend could send you back to your room to change. And this is even more important when dealing with adolescents, in that they're so concerned about their appearance. You know, even older teens, you know, as you get a little bit older, you get a little bit less concerned, I think, you know. But as a teenager especially, you're so concerned about your appearance, you know. My ears are too big, my nose is too big, my feet are too big, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny. You know, where does it stop at? And so you're looking for approval from your friends. And this is part of what you expect from a friend and who you draw kind of near to. Well, this can occur with other choices that you make as well. If you're certain that the choices you make concerning your future uphold moral principles and respect the needs of others and yourself, then don't allow negative comments to discourage you from your purpose. Stand firm. Don't be swayed by the opinions of others. Learn to shed negative comments, and I've heard the teacher of the author of the Peaceful Solution say this before, is learn to shed those negative comments like a duck sheds water, or like water on a duck's back. You know, that's how they kind of say it. You know, and so that's an important thing to remember. Now, let's look over at page 9 real quick. Let's go back there for just a moment. Page 9. One of the things that we want to remember when getting these comments from others, whether they be, you know, encouraging or discouraging, you know, you don't want to let your emotions take over and lose control and say something that you wouldn't want to really say, something discouraging or negative to the person that might have made a negative comment to you. At the top of the page on page 9, in bold letters, it says, hey, you're not finished growing yet. And that goes for everybody, not just children, not just teens. It goes for all of us. We're not through growing yet. And we have to leave ourselves and others room to grow. You've got to remember, that's part of the Peaceful Solution, is having the empathy, walking in another person's shoes, so to speak, thinking about what they're going through, what they've gone through, where they're going, It's very important to remember things. We have to leave ourselves and others room to grow. And, this is a hard thing to do, shedding those negative comments, but you've got to set your mind in advance. Turn over to page 36, please. And this is one of the things, as a teacher of the Peaceful Solution, you want to keep in mind that these books are here to be used. You can go forward in pages, you can go backwards in the pages, you can go back to another unit, whatever you need to do to get the point across to the students. You can bring forth articles, but it's great to know your way around in the Peaceful Solution so you can go back and reiterate these things in your mind as the teacher and also in the student's mind. So on page 36, we want to be prepared for when these things take place. If we're not prepared, we could go off on them. So we want to be prepared. And let's read that. It says, deciding to stand up for acceptance and tolerance means preparing your mind in advance to deal with intolerance on a daily basis. Now, this particular chapter was dealing with intolerance, but if you remember, intolerance can be an umbrella type category that covers a lot of things. It's not just about intolerance of, I'm rich, you're poor, so get away from me, or, you're black, I'm white, get away from me, and so forth. It doesn't have to be any type of normal intolerance that you might think on a daily basis. But Remember to be respectful even to those who are not tolerant. Now that's a hard thing to do. Being disrespectful and putting someone down because their background differs from yours is the exact ideology that promoted intolerance in the first place. So you would be doing exactly what they're doing. You might not always be able to approach someone and talk to them about their views, but you can choose to be respectful and not take part in conversations or activities that promote racism, stereotyping, and intolerance in general. And that's that umbrella intolerance that I'm talking about, intolerance in general. And you also have to be willing to forgive. Look over to page 37. It's about forgiveness. Boy, is that a hard thing to do? I mean, think about it. To really forgive somebody. To really forgive somebody so that you're not carrying that around with you, so that I'm not carrying it around with me, so we as a group are not carrying it around. You want to be willing to forgive. So another important aspect of dealing with any kind of intolerance is to be willing to forgive others even when they're intolerant towards you. Going on down just a little bit, deal with your feelings of hurt and disappointment appropriately by talking to a trusted adult or friend. Now, this is where you as a Peaceful Solution teacher come in too. Your students might want to talk to you about this. And you should have the answer, or you should know where to go for the answer, and remind them of what they've already been learning in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. This is your job as a teacher, our job. So you've got to learn to forgive. Forgiving others who have wronged you might not be the easiest thing to do, but without this very important character trait, your hurt and disappointment can turn into anger, resentment, and hate. And in the Peaceful Solution, one of the things that we're taught is that when you hold on to this resentment for somebody and these grudges, it's kind of like you drinking a glass of poison, guzzling it down and looking over and waiting for the other person to die. It doesn't work that way. You're hurting yourself when you have this anger, resentment, and hate. When you hold on to these negative emotions, you can develop an intolerant attitude, and I might say you can also develop physical problems too, not just mental problems. Let's go on back to page 99. Remember to choose your friends, the bottom paragraph there on page 99 in the acceptance unit. Remember to choose your friends based upon their character and actions. Choose them wisely. Watch what they're doing. Don't just listen to what they say. A con artist can say the right words to really make you think, hey, this person's great, they're wonderful. Look how handsome or pretty they are and how wonderful they speak, and look, when they smile at me, they're really great. You can't go by that. That's personality. That's what's on the outside. You got to know what's on the inside to really call somebody a friend. So choose to be around people who are positive and encouraging. That's a great sign right there. If you're around people that are always tearing people down, that are always negative, and I say always, let's stop for a minute there. I should rephrase that, because actually nobody does that always. It might be a lot of the time, but it's not always. So when you're around people who are negative and they discourage positive actions even, and discourage positive dreams, be careful. Keep your eyes and ears open to the people you call friends, and don't be fooled. And that's one of the things I like about the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Once you've been practicing the Peaceful Solution for a long time, and you've become a teacher of the Peaceful Solution, I would say that the possibility of being fooled is a lot less probable, because you can see through some of the games. The game players, the people who deceive and fool, they don't like the Peaceful Solution because it builds within a person that ability to discern between what's right and what's wrong. Is it going to hurt others? It's wrong. Is it not going to hurt others? It could be right. That line between what is right and wrong, and this is where these moral rules come into play. And, these are rules, and these are what we're learning in the Peaceful Solution. There is no society, no religion, no position in any type of in life that could disagree with these things. They work for everybody, and they're not against any individual thing that doesn't hurt other people. You got to remember that. Everybody can look at this and say, the things that we learn in the Peaceful Solution on how to treat people, everyone would want to be treated that way if they had the opportunity. You want to be stolen from? No. Do you want to come home and find that your house has been broken into? No. Do you want to find that someone kidnapped your children? No. Well, these are all things that we teach. We teach in the Peaceful Solution. These are things that we should not do. And so see how everybody, no matter what religion or what ethnicity or anything, everybody can agree with these things. That's an important thing to remember. So choosing to be around people who are positive and encouraging. Keep your eyes and ears open to the people you call friends, and don't be fooled. Someone who is honest will not steal. Someone who acts respectful in front of adults but says disrespectful things behind their backs is not a respectful person. You could also say someone who acts respectful in front of children but says disrespectful things behind their backs is not a respectful person. On the other hand, someone who really cares about others would not intentionally harm them by making negative comments about their purpose in life. Purpose in life is such an important thing. You can make or break a person. You can say something to them that's negative that they'll remember the rest of their life, and it might have a lasting effect on how they treat others and how they interact throughout their getting married and dealing with children and dealing with other people in business and so forth. You could be that person that really knocked them down with something they'll remember the rest of their life. Or we can be that person that says something that they remember for the rest of their life that was positive. I've mentioned it before in the Peaceful Solution, in the classes, where many people, when I was younger, I was voted most likely to go to prison, with my classmates. I was not looked upon very kindly by most people, including my family. It was thought that I definitely would do something that would land me in some very bad circumstances. But I remember one person. And, after working on, it was an uncle that I had, and after working on his car, I've told this story before, but for those of you out there, after working on his car one time and getting it running, he said, David, I've had mechanics look at this car and they couldn't get it running. I was like 16, 17, something like that. And they couldn't get this car running. And more than one person, in fact, and paid, took it to a shop and so forth. And it was something very simple that I did, and the car ran and really wasn't a problem. And to this day, I don't know why they didn't do it. And possibly it was because, who knows, might be they wanted to, make a lot of money off repairing it or something. I don't know. There's many things that go on in people's minds. But he told me, and I have never forgotten this in all my life. And I'm quite older than that now, but he told me, man, David, I've watched you over the years, and he said, I can tell you this, you can do anything that you want to do. Whew, man, I remember that. And I've remembered it till now. And that came into play in my life many times. Did I always do the right thing? No. I didn't know the Peaceful Solution. I had not learned the Peaceful Solution. But in all the things that I got involved in, I always remembered that. And that's what we're talking about here tonight, is be the teacher that says these words in a student's mind, that the thing that they'll remember that's positive for the rest of their life. The thing that comes to them in dark times, in times of wondering, what their purpose is. Remember, People wonder what their purpose in life is and why am I here. So what we're doing, and I might have shown this before, but right there on the overhead, you can see, got purpose? Okay, well, let's get started then. Once you identify that purpose, and I'm going to tell you what your purpose is here tonight. That purpose is to teach others this great information, this knowledge that we get out of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, this power that comes to us in being able to choose, and the wisdom that comes from being able to facilitate these lessons that are learned in the Peaceful Solution to use them in our own life. There's a narrative on the next page. We're not going to read the whole thing. It would take a little bit too long, but I highly encourage you to read it at your own pace. I would read it after the class tonight, in fact. It's a great narrative. It kind of falls in line with what I was just talking about there. And if I can get through this, it's one of those that really make you think. It's called "It's a Matter of Choice," and it starts out with a young man. He's in his teens. He says, "I'll always remember the day my life changed forever." Now get that. He's going to remember the day his life changed forever. And I'm not going to spoil it yet. We're going to just go through this pretty quick, but it's the day his life changed forever. He was standing there waiting on a bus so he could go visit his grandfather in the nursing home. And, the year before he had a stroke and was paralyzed. Well, his family would go visit him, but the young man would go visit him more. He hated the thought of him just lying there all alone. To everyone else, I was this tough guy in the neighborhood that I lived in. I thought you had to be tough. You had to know what you're about and so forth. But he always had in the back of his mind, too, not to get involved in gangs. You'll see in this narrative that this young man had empathy. He had compassion. These are some things that he had a start on in his life that could be developed. And so encouraging this young man to work on those things and develop them to their full degree. But if you drop down, he says, even as a little boy, this is down in, I guess, the second paragraph, my grandparents, so he's talking about what his grandparents would tell him in his hearing, would tell me if I worked hard enough that I could be anything I wanted to be and that it was up to me what I did with my life. Now, he also remembers his mom saying to the grandparents, what are y'all telling my son about? He's too little to plan his future. All he cares about right now are toys. Now, looking at that, what is the positive thing and what's the negative thing taking place there? Here's a young man that's hearing something very positive in his life that's going to last him a lifetime, and then, someone kind of discouraging that. He said he also remembers his grandmother saying that she had seen a TV show on how little children can learn, and, and that if I could care about toys, I could sure care about my future. Now, this reminds me about the author of The Peaceful Solution, of the things that he would talk about was said in his hearing from his parents and so forth. In his life, the things he remembered that made a difference in his life that he's able to share with us in the writings of The Peaceful Solution. It's amazing. But he says, I guess that's why he never got involved with these gangs. I wanted to be more than that. And he missed his grandmother. She died a few years ago. Now, when the bus finally came, it was very packed, and he thought a lot about what he was going to do when he got to see his grandfather. He noticed that on the corner, a homeless man slept. We're on about the fourth paragraph. We're on the second page, page 101 if you have a book. He noticed the homeless man slept huddled in the doorway of a store that had gone out of business, and he often wondered about the homeless on cold days. It really bothered him that these people had nowhere to live. So we're seeing that the young man already has some compassion and empathy forming in his life. I knew some children in school would make fun of him and the homeless people around where we live, or play jokes on them, but I never took part in that stuff. See, he stood up. Remember, this is test, prove, and stand firm. That's the title of what we're working on tonight. He stood up for what was right. All right, so on down. He was glad when he arrived at the nursing home. and he was there so often that the receptionist knew him by name. "Hi, Sergio, you're here early today," she said as she hung up the phone. "Hi, Mrs. McKellis," he replied. "We had a half day of school today, and I figured I'd come early to spend more time with my grandfather." Now, interestingly enough, drop on down about 3/4 of the way down there, directly to the left of the little illustration there, showing him waiting. Let's see. Notice him waiting here, right there. See, I just wanted you to see that. But at first, it was hard seeing his grandfather like that, in the hospital. But the doctor told us that although he could not communicate, he could probably still hear us. He had had a stroke and so forth. And actually, I said in the hospital, it was in the nursing home, but I guess in a medical wing. So I would talk to him and remind him of places we had gone together. So here, his grandfather's been laying there all this time and can't even communicate, but he goes and visits him. So I liked writing poetry and short stories, so I would read what I had written. And today, I brought my latest poem to read to him. So when the elevator stopped, he got off and went down towards the room, and as he passed the nurse's station, he could hear one of them say "Code Blue." And over to the next page, page 102. And the young man had watched enough TV to know what Code Blue meant. The patient wasn't breathing, and so when he was finally able to pull himself off the wall, he ran down the room. We're on page 102 now. And he heard the doctor say, time, and she said 12:39, and he knew that his grandfather had passed away. So Mrs. Alley, the nurse, called Sergio's name, and looking up, he wiped the tears from his face. And she said that by now you know that your grandfather's passed away. And when you feel up to it, on down, you can go sit down. And anyway, she wanted to talk to him. Look on down, and she says, it says, "Mrs. Alley came to check on him. How are you doing, Sergio? Might I talk with you?" And he said, "I guess so. I'm okay." So Mrs. Alley said the words that changed my life. I'm sorry, but this is so important. The words that changed his life. He said, "I can still remember the conversation to this day." So looking out the window, she took a deep breath and said, "I've been working here for 5 years, and I've seen many elderly people placed here and forgotten. But from the day your grandfather was admitted to this nursing home, I've been impressed with the way you with the care you and your family have shown. And however, you impressed me the most. The fact that you came here on your own to be with your grandfather says much about your character. Many young men your age would choose to use their free time playing sports or hanging out and so forth. Instead, you would come here to read to your grandfather, not even sure he could hear you. It's obvious that you're a compassionate person, and I hope you continue to care about people and that someday you make a difference in the lives of others." He said, after she left, I'd never really thought about it before, but I realized, I do care about people. And he started thinking about ways that he could make a difference. And he thought about his grandparents telling him time and time again he could be anything he wanted to be, and the choice was his. So this is very to me, it's pretty pretty emotional because this goes along with what I told you before, that some things that people say to you in life, it can be negative or it can be positive, and it can affect you your entire life. And that's why we, as teachers of the Peaceful Solution, should be careful in what we say to a young person especially. We've got to show that care and concern that we're learning as teachers of the Peaceful Solution, all of us, and remember that. Remember, even sometimes when you see a child in your classroom that might have his head down, or it might not look like they're listening, try something. Just ask them a question when they raise their head up. Ask them a question about what you were talking about. You might be surprised. It's amazing what children can do. I've seen it time and time again, to where I didn't think they were listening, or I thought they were being disrespectful. And when asked, they knew what it was about, and they're still learning. You got to give them room to grow. We need to remember that. Turn over to page 104, if you will, and let's read along here. Life is a journey. Now, with purpose in life, we can succeed. Of negative conformity, we must take heed. For life is a journey that we must take based on our character and decisions we make. With a smile, we can ease the burden of another's mind. With strong shoulders, we can help put troubles behind. I thought about doing this like in kind of a rap song, I thought, but then I thought, well, wait a minute, y'all might not like that as much as I did. So I just went ahead and I'm just reading it. So we breathe each day without any thought, but must learn well what our day has taught. How we choose to relate to one another can make the difference between foe and brother. Our journey is full of those in need, and we can bring peace by planting a seed, like that seed that was planted and telling that young man he could be anything he wanted to be. Of kindness and truth taught far and near to change hearts and minds everywhere. Life is a journey that we are privileged to take, full of treasures, hopes, and friends we make. And of course, friends, remember, we want to choose carefully those that we call friends. And we want to choose friends that, I know a lot of people say, well, we teach our children all the time that they can be whatever they want to be. They can be president. They can be this. They can be that. Well, that might be so. But more importantly than being president or the CEO of a large corporation or something, and more important than the money and all, is I would say this young man's grandparents in the story we just read were some of the most important people because of what they were able to do for him. And there's a ripple effect, as we've learned in the Peaceful Solution. And that ripple effect goes far and wide. And those words that they said, did not fall short. They're still rolling on somewhere, I'm sure, So let's go ahead and look over to page 105. And this is a little bit of a review of the chapter. I think we'll be able to get through it tonight. If you look at the first bullet point, my life has meaning and purpose when I apply certain principles to it. And, I can't help but think again of the many times that, and I know others here in this room, other Peaceful Solution teachers and students that I've talked to that seem to have a lot of the same experiences in trying to figure out, why am I here? Why am I on this earth? What are all these people here for? What's this all about? This can't be just about making money and being, President of the United States or something like that. It can't just be about that. You live, you pay taxes, you die. What's going on here? What's the use of even living? And that's what go through people's minds, the turmoil, the despondency that comes with not knowing, why are we here? Why even do anything about it? And so then you got the group that says, hey, go for the gusto, just do it, live life to its fullest, party down. And so that's where that attitude comes from. What's the use in all of it? Well, here in the Peaceful Solution, we have learned and continue to learn that purpose is to bring this peaceful journey of life, to help people have a peaceful journey in life and teach others to do the same thing. And that's so much more important than anything you could possibly think of that there is to offer out there. Let's turn over to page 87, if you will. Page 87. This is the introduction to this chapter. There is a purpose to it all. And, to have purpose in life means to have a positive direction in which to grow and mature. Knowing your purpose helps you to know what you want to do with your life. How can you tell if there is purpose in someone's life? Well, look to see if they're motivated and determined to accomplish things. People with purpose strive to learn all they can about a particular subject. If it's been presented to you that you might be involved in a certain job, for instance, man, someone who has purpose, and they're going to strive to learn all they can about that particular job so they can do the best that they can do. Now, not to think that they're better than anybody else, as they're learning about it, because there's many people with experience you can also learn from too, that can teach you what not to do that they learn by experience. Well, you might be able to learn without having to go through the bad experiences, and that's the hope of it all, is that we can share in order to keep people from having to experience the downside of things and keep them on the upswing as much as we can. Looking on down, unless you understand that your life has purpose, you can easily dismiss the effect that you have on the lives of others. And that's the important thing. It's so easy to think that you don't have any impact on anybody else. I often think about people who commit suicide, for instance, and think, wow, to get to that point of not knowing how to deal with life and then not thinking about the others around them, or possibly even thinking the others around them might be better off without them there, which is not true. Never think of life as meaningless, unimportant, or useless. All life has value. All life. There's a reason to it all, believe me. Point number 2 on page 105 is making an effort to help others gives meaning and purpose to my life, especially if I can help them to learn the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. So, in life, a lot of people volunteer in different areas thinking they're helping out, and indeed, I'm sure they are helping out to some degree. But in some things we volunteer in, it could be actually helping that particular negative thing to even carry on. That we might, if we're not students of the Peaceful Solution and we're not firm in what we've learned, you don't just go volunteer for anything. You volunteer for what has meaning and purpose, and what gives meaning and purpose to life. You volunteer to help others learn how to have peace in their life, how to not have war ever again. On page 88 and 89, look on page 88, helping others, value and worth. If you look down just a little bit in the first paragraph, it says, by consciously making an effort to willingly help and share knowledge with others, you can improve their lives and give meaning and purpose to your own. Try it. You'll like it. I guarantee it. Do this. Share this Peaceful Solution. You, those training to be Peaceful Solution teachers, share this information. Talk about it all the time. Even something as simple, look down the page about halfway down. It says, it may seem as if you're only taking out the trash or doing the dishes, but doing your chores with a pleasant attitude and to the best of your ability, you alleviate some of the stress from your parents or, other workmates, coworkers, so forth, and help to make your home life or business life, whatever, pleasant, clean, and healthy by helping do simple things that some people might think it's above them to do. At the top of page 89, think about it. If everyone waited for someone else to pitch in and help, nothing would get done. So take the initiative and be generous with your time. And then in the next paragraph at the bottom, it says, considering the needs of others, considering one another. Think about that. Consider the other person. Consider that they might be more important than you. Consider what they're going through. Consider them, and putting others first will help to give meaning and value to your life and the lives of others. Let's look at point 3 on page 105. Getting a proper education will help me determine my purpose in life and will help me to help others do the same. Turn over to page 92 for a moment. And we're just skipping through the chapter, hitting some high points. But when we're talking about education, we're not just talking about, learning how to read and learning how to add and subtract and multiply and learning how to spell and so forth. Those things are all very important. We wouldn't be right here learning to be teachers tonight if we didn't know how to read, or at least to, there might be someone out there that has the ability, I'm sure that there are some that have the ability to remember things quite well and even repeat things that are being said. So I'm not trying to downgrade anybody that might have a problem in reading or so forth. Not at all. I know that some people have some issues with that. But if you put forth the effort to be a Peaceful Solution teacher, you can do it. So determining our purpose. Many people wonder at some point in their lives what the future holds for them. And if you too have ever wondered who you are and what your purpose is, then join the crowd. Okay? And look on down. It says time, education, and determination can answer all these questions. What you're here for, And meanwhile, understand that having purpose in life does not necessarily mean changing world events or becoming rich and famous. We talked a little bit about that. On down there, directly to the side of where I think those are books right there in that illustration. In fact, one of the greatest purposes that anyone can strive for is reaching their full potential by developing and maintaining a positive moral character and by pursuing a sound education. Remember, knowledge is powerful. And that's what we want to be powerful in, is powerful in our knowledge of the Peaceful Solution, so that the people won't be playing games on us. We'll already know in advance what's coming our way. Back on page 105, excuse me. In point number 4, who I associate with and how I use my spare time can determine what I conform to. And we talked about conforming. You can go to page 95 and 96 there. We talked about the conforming. Friends, conformity, and purpose. This is on page 95. And again, being able to go back and see some of the highlights of what we covered, and as a teacher, getting it in your mind so you know kind of where to go within the book. You might not remember all of it, but you might remember, what area of the book it's in or what quadrant of the page it's on or so forth. I know some people like that remember things in that manner. And so friends, conformity, and purpose. Once you've identified your purpose in life, don't stop there. You must also be focused on achieving it. This means being careful of how you spend your time alone or with friends, as well as being aware of what you conform to. And without the focus and determination, you can lose sight of the positive things you want from life. That's why it's so important. We're going to be learning more about setting goals and so forth. But it's so important to have goals set forth, whether short-term, long-term, and so forth, that you can reachable goals that you can shoot for, because without that focus and determination, you can lose sight. You can lose sight of the goal. If you were running a race and you lost sight of the goal, just turn your head over there and waved at somebody in the stands, wrong thing to do. Keep your eye on the goal, So think a moment about what you spend your free time doing. Is it racing to the computer or the phone to play the latest game, or is it watching hours and hours of TV and videos and so forth? No, that's not the right thing. There are some videos you can watch that help you to learn the Peaceful Solution and can help you on how to apply these things in your life. But let's go on over to 105 again. Now, the fifth point, it says, I will seek advice only from those who are trustworthy, honest, and responsible. Those that are trustworthy, honest, and responsible. So, one of the things that you might consider is you, as a Peaceful Solution teacher, we want to be the example of how the Peaceful Solution works in our life and others, and therefore being one of those trustworthy, honest, and responsible people that a student can feel okay in coming to, and talking to, and asking deep questions. But you have to do it with people that are trustworthy and honest. Many times there have been people that were thought to be trustworthy that took advantage of that trust that was put within them. And that occurs a lot in families where that have not been taught the Peaceful Solution, and therefore they don't have the self-control that is necessary, and they don't have the care and respect, and they don't value lives enough to keep bad things from occurring to other family members. You got to be careful who you trust. You should trust those that have shown themselves to be an example of the Peaceful Solution in the way they carry themselves, in the way they deal with situations. Let's see. In fact, on page 94, if you go down to about the middle of the page, it says, just by speaking with one person about a subject, the whole focus of your life can change. So you must be careful who you get advice from, and not be too quick to obligate yourself until you get all the facts. So just like my uncle said in my hearing, and I remembered it all my life, that you could do anything you want to do and so forth. I had other things that I remembered that were very negative and not beneficial at all, that I did remember also for a very long time. And when I started learning the Peaceful Solution, I was able to get those things out of my mind so that I don't have those always coming back and talking to me, So you can get advice from those who are trustworthy, honest, and responsible for their actions. In other words, they have positive moral character, and they set and achieve positive goals. So be smart and consider how all these influences can affect your life. Be careful who you listen to. Point number 6, how I spend my time will determine whether I achieve my purpose or not. Well, we touched on this a few moments ago. Page 95 and 96 talks a little bit about spending your time, whether you're going to be spending it watching TV or whether you're going to spending it by learning more about the Peaceful Solution in your studies. So if you go to page 96 and you look down to the second paragraph, it says, the need to please friends is certainly one of the most powerful reasons why people conform. For example, how do you spend your time when you're with your friends? Okay, think about it. How do you? Standing around talking about things that don't really matter? You talk about what was on TV last night, or, what do you talk about? Think about that. How do you spend your time when you're with your friends? And remember, choosing friends. Studies indicate that a popular pastime for adolescents between the ages of 12 and 15 is hanging out at the mall. Of course, malls are, they were big at one time, and they still are in some areas, but whether at the mall or someone's house or in the car, talking about and laughing at people as they walk by, making fun of people, that's not the Peaceful Solution. Many of teens surveyed said they would not feel comfortable doing this if they were by themselves. They get into a gang, like a pack of dogs. I remember a dog I had one time, and a cat, and that dog was just really friendly with the cat, and they were buddies and pals and all that stuff, until that day. Until the day my friend brought his dog over, and we lived in the country, so they had free roam, and they laughed. They played, and they barked and ran and everything. And then the other dog saw my cat. Oh, man. They took off after that cat, and there was the cat's buddy, right there, his friend, right along there with that other dog, chasing him up a tree, wanting to kill it. So, it's the same thing here. Usually when you get teenagers alone, by themselves, a lot of times they're going to want to do the right thing. And I've seen it time and time again where their focus goes towards doing what's right and what they know that you would want them to do. Time and time again. You get a group, and unless somebody stands up for what is right, which is what we're learning in this lesson, unless someone stands up for what is right, the whole group can be swayed. But with friends, they set aside their sense of right from wrong because everybody else is doing it. And a lot of us have been guilty of that. There are many other types of activities that are done with friends as a means of conforming and fitting in that are negative and have the potential to influence you to make poor choices. Keep in mind that every choice you make, including how you spend your time and what you conform to, can affect your ability to develop a positive character. You got to carefully consider who you're hanging around with. You got to consider who you're talking to, whether it be on the phone, in person, what have you. So negative conformity can waste your time and your future, which if, some of us older guys, if we look back, we could think of many things we'd like to change in our lives where we could go back and change it to be more positive, to have a more positive effect on others. And we look back on the things we did that were negative to other people with great shame and horror that we ever partook in such things. It's horrible. So we can help the young people avoid these things by sharing some of our experiences, by helping them to focus on what's positive, and always remembering that a word from our mouth is all it takes. I remember one time the author of The Peaceful Solution said it's not right to criticize a child. Showing that stern disapproval of what they're doing. They need to be taught. He said it's not right to criticize because they'll remember that all their life. And we don't want to be that way. We might have been involved in it sometime in our life, but it's time to change. In point number 7, conforming to negative, unacceptable standards will affect my purpose and keep me from achieving my goals. Well, we talked about that a little bit on page 96 and also on page 99. Now, this is kind of where we started at for this lesson, page 99. And so this is a great place to end it here tonight. Keep in mind that there's a few more activities that you can get involved in. There's enrichment activities on page 106 that you could do, and have your students do. And then, of course, a lot of times they like the word puzzles on page 107. But so going back to page 109, and let's go back to the top. When it comes to your friends and achieving your purpose, keep in mind that friends can either support your positive choices or discourage you by thoughtless negative comments. Think about it, you as a teacher. Those thoughtless negative comments, you don't want that coming out of your mouth in the hearing of a child, especially if it's something about them. And if you're even talking to another adult, if the child hears you talking negative about them, they're going to remember that. It's a horrible, horrible thing. Let's build them up and teach them to encourage others. Looking down a little ways, we want to remember, let's look at the next to last paragraph. If you are certain that the choices you make concerning your future uphold moral principles and respect the needs of others and yourself, then do not allow negative comments to discourage you from your purpose. Remember, stand firm, don't be swayed by the opinions of others. Even if it's something negative from a teacher, learn to shed negative comments like a duck sheds water. If it's correction, then take that correction. But if it's negative comments that degrade and criticize, let that go off your back like water. Let it just go by like water on a duck's back, man. Remember, you got to set your mind in advance and be prepared for that. And then also remember to always be willing to forgive. So even if someone has said something that hurt you very harshly, that hurt you to where you think you can't go on, or something has occurred in your life to where it just seems impossible to carry on, And just think of the young man when he found out that his grandfather, someone that he believed in so much, and the words that his grandfather said in his hearing that stuck with him all his life, and his grandfather died. What a hard thing that was for him. But he didn't let it stop him. He went on. And so remember that, and remember to always remember how you, as a teacher of the Peaceful Solution and as students of the Peaceful Solution, want to be respectful, you want to be empathetic, you want to be caring, show real concern, show respect, and accept others and help them to grow. Okay? And with that, I'd like to thank you for attending tonight, and to remind you that our next class will be, the fourth day of the week there, Wednesday evening at 5:30, and that is on, 11/3/21 of this week, okay? So we look forward to having you here, whether in person or online, and once again, just remember to be positive, okay? And to let those words that flow from your mouth, especially in the hearing of others, be very positive. And we thank you for attending. That's all.